The sun had just begun to rise over the green hills of Elisara, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. Birds with shining feathers that shimmered like crystals were singing their morning songs. The small colony of humans had been on this planet for over 10 years, and life was slowly taking shape among the strange, towering trees and bright, glowing flowers. Kai adjusted the strap of his backpack and looked around at the small group of children waiting for him at the edge of the learning garden. There were 6 of them, a mix of human and human-alien hybrid children. Each of them had a curious sparkle in their eyes, the kind that made it impossible to lie or hide anything from them for long. "Good morning, everyone," Kai said with a smile. "Ready for another day of learning?" "Yeah," they chorused. Lena, a bright-eyed 7-year-old with a shock of black hair, bounced slightly on her feet. "What are we going to do today, Mr. Kai?" Kai scratched the back of his neck. Today's lesson had been about the strange pollination patterns of the golden starflowers in the garden. But he knew that with these children, any lesson could quickly turn into a question and answer storm. "Today," he said carefully, "we're going to see how the starflowers help each other grow." The children leaned in eagerly as Kai guided them through the rows of glowing flowers. He explained how the flowers spread pollen from one plant to another, and how the bees of Elisara, small glowing insects, helped with this process. The children watched the insects hover and land gently, fascinated. Then, just as Kai was about to continue, Lena tilted her head and asked a question that made him freeze mid-sentence. "Mr. Kai, how are babies made?" Kai blinked. He wasn't ready. Not yet. He had faced many questions in his life, but this one always made him panic. He felt his cheeks grow warm. The other children looked at him with wide eyes, waiting. He opened his mouth, closed it again, and then muttered, almost to himself, Maybe. By kissing each other. I guess." Lena's eyes widened. She giggled. "Really?" Kai laughed nervously. "Well, it's one way to say it. Maybe not the exact way, but it's kind of close. In a funny way." The children laughed too, and the tension eased slightly. But Kai knew he couldn't leave the question unanswered forever. One day, they would all need the real answers. For now, though, he focused on keeping the lesson moving. "Okay," he said, trying to redirect their attention. "Let's look at the starflowers again. Do you see how the pollen moves from one flower to another?" The children leaned closer to observe. Lena, however, still looked thoughtful. She reached out and gently tapped one of the flowers with her finger. "So, is that like sharing a kiss?" she asked, looking up at Kai. Kai smiled, realizing he had to be careful with his words. "In a way," he said softly, "the flowers share something that helps them grow. That's kind of like a tiny little kiss, you could say." Lena nodded seriously. "So, maybe that's how babies are made too?" Kai's heart skipped a beat. "Well, not exactly. Humans are a little different, but it's also about sharing love and care, just like the flowers share pollen." The children seemed to understand, though their eyes were full of curiosity. They went back to examining the flowers, some even mimicking the way the bees landed on the petals. Their laughter ringing through the garden. After the lesson, Kai led the children back to the small learning center, a round building made of smooth stones and transparent panels that let in the sunlight. The center was filled with books, plants, and little gadgets that the children loved to tinker with. "Time for story hour," Kai announced. The children cheered and settled onto the soft mats. Kai opened a book about the first humans who had traveled to other planets. The story was full of adventure, courage, and the wonder of discovering new worlds. As Kai read, he noticed Lena whispering to her friend, pointing at the pictures of human families. He caught snippets of their conversation, words like love and together and magic. He smiled quietly, relieved that they were grasping the simple, beautiful parts of life before diving into the complicated details. After story hour, the children ran outside to play. Kai watched them, his mind wandering. The Elisara children were growing up in a unique environment, part human, part alien. And he realized how lucky they were to experience the world in such a magical way. Yet, he also knew the responsibility on his shoulders to teach them, guide them, and protect them while letting them discover life on their own. As the sun climbed higher, the sky turned a brilliant blue, and the wind carried the soft hum of the alien forest. Kai decided to take a short walk to clear his mind. He wandered toward the edge of the colony, where the trees grew taller and the flowers glowed brighter. There, he noticed something unusual. One of the hybrid children's experiments with the glowing plants had caused a strange reaction. The plant's pollen formed tiny glowing orbs that floated in the air, almost as if they were dancing. Kai bent down, studying them closely. This was something he had never seen before. These were not just ordinary flowers, but a unique mix of human and alien influence. He realized that the children were not just learning from the environment, they were shaping it in ways even the adults did not fully understand. The thought filled him with awe. Perhaps Lena's playful question about babies was just the beginning of a much bigger discovery. Kai returned to the learning center as the children came running back, their hands full of glowing pollen orbs. "Look what we made, Mr. Kai," Lena exclaimed. Kai laughed, taking one of the orbs carefully. "This is amazing. You all did something incredible today." The children beamed with pride, unaware that their small experiment could one day change the way humans understood life on Elisara. Kai felt a deep sense of hope. The children were curious, brave, and full of wonder, the perfect traits for a new generation of humans exploring the stars. That evening, as the sky turned deep purple and the first stars appeared, Kai sat outside alone for a moment. He looked at Elisara's twin moons rising over the horizon and thought about the questions children ask: how life begins, why love matters, and what it means to grow. He realized that sometimes, the simplest answers, a kiss, a shared smile, a touch of care, could be the most powerful. And he knew that when the time came, the children would learn the full truth, guided by love and curiosity rather than fear. For now, though, the laughter of the children and the glow of the plants were enough. Humanity had landed on a new world. And here, life was beginning again, full of hope, discovery, and the promise of something extraordinary. Kai smiled to himself. Tomorrow, he thought, he would teach them something new, maybe about stars, or flowers, or even about the magic of life itself. But tonight, the children dreamed of wonder, and that was more than enough. The gentle wind rustled the leaves, the glowing pollen drifted through the air, and Kai whispered quietly to the night, "Let them grow, let them explore, and let them always be curious." And on Elisara, under the glowing sky, life moved forward, one question at a time. The morning sun rose slowly over Elisara, casting long shadows through the alien trees. Their leaves shimmered like glass in the soft light, and tiny glowing insects buzzed quietly among the branches. The colony was waking up. Birds sang songs that seemed almost musical, and the flowers Kai had shown the children yesterday glowed faintly, as if holding on to the night's magic. Kai walked toward the learning garden, his mind still buzzing with thoughts about Lena's question from yesterday. The children's curiosity was wonderful, but he also knew that it could lead them into experiments he might not fully control. Still, he had to trust them. When he arrived, he found the children already waiting by the edge of the garden. Lena had a notebook in her hand, filled with sketches of flowers, glowing orbs, and tiny stick figures of the bees. She looked up at Kai, her eyes bright with excitement. "Mr. Kai," she called, "look what we tried this morning." Kai smiled. "Show me." The children led him to a cluster of glowing starflowers. Tiny orbs of pollen floated above them, glowing even more brightly than the day before. Lena reached out carefully and touched one, and it drifted up into the air, hovering near her hand. It's like they're alive in a new way, she said, her voice full of wonder. Kai crouched down to examine the flowers. He could see that the pollen had begun forming patterns, tiny swirls in the air that seemed almost intentional. Interesting, he muttered. This is unlike anything I've seen before. Another child, Jaren, piped up. We tried copying the way the bees move. We made our hands like wings and touched the pollen like we were kissing the flowers. Kai blinked. He realized that Lena's innocent idea about kissing had influenced the children's experiments in a new way. What had started as a joke had become something meaningful. You touched the pollen? He asked. All of you? Yes, Lena said, smiling proudly. And the flowers started glowing brighter. Kai nodded slowly. This is very special. The children are interacting with the plants in a way no one expected. It's almost like you're helping them grow in new ways. Lena looked puzzled. Like how we help babies grow. Oh, Kai chuckled softly. Sort of. Life grows when it is cared for. That's the simple truth. The children spent the next hour carefully experimenting. They hovered their hands over the glowing pollen, letting it drift between flowers. They mimicked kissing motions, gentle touches, and even tiny dances around the plants. The pollen responded, forming glowing trails that floated above their heads. Kai took notes, amazed at what he saw. Something about the hybrid DNA of the children, combined with Elisara's alien flora, was creating a new interaction. The glowing pollen seemed to react to empathy, curiosity, and care qualities the children showed naturally. Something incredible is happening here, he whispered to himself. By midday, word had spread among the colony. Other adults came to watch, and whispers of amazement floated through the air. No one had seen this type of interaction before. The children were not just learning, they were teaching the plants how to grow. One of the scientists, Dr. Leora, approached Kai with a tablet in hand. Kai, I need to see this, she said urgently. The patterns in the pollen. They're unlike any growth signals we've studied. It's almost like the children are guiding the plants themselves. Kai nodded. I think it's the empathy factor. The children care about the plants. They treat them like friends. That's why it's working. Dr. Leora frowned thoughtfully. This could be more than a plant experiment. If this works, it could change the way we understand human-alien interaction, even human evolution. Kai's heart skipped a beat. Evolution? He asked. Yes, she said. The children's DNA is interacting with the alien environment. It's creating new patterns, new possibilities. And it all started from their curiosity. And maybe a little joke about kissing. Lena, standing nearby, tilted her head. A joke? Kai smiled. Yes, a joke. But it made you all curious. And curiosity is powerful. The rest of the day was filled with excitement. The children continued their gentle experiments with the glowing pollen, and the adults recorded every observation. Kai taught them simple lessons about empathy, care, and observation, while the children's natural wonder guided their actions. By late afternoon, Kai noticed something strange. The pollen was beginning to form patterns that almost looked like shapes, tiny, glowing symbols that floated in the air before dissolving. He knelt down and studied them carefully. These aren't random, he murmured. They're communicating something. Dr. Leora joined him. It's possible the pollen is responding to their thoughts or emotions. The hybrid DNA may be allowing the children to influence their environment in ways we didn't expect. Kai felt a thrill of excitement. This was more than just a garden experiment. This was the beginning of a discovery that could change everything humans knew about life on Elisara, and maybe even humanity itself. As evening approached, Kai called the children together. Tomorrow, he said, we will continue our experiments. But remember, This is not a game. You are learning something very important. Every touch, every smile, every act of care. It matters. The children nodded eagerly, their eyes wide with understanding. Lena leaned over and whispered to Kai, "I think the flowers like us." Kai smiled. "I think you're right. And I think they're teaching us too." After the children returned to their living quarters, Kai walked alone through the garden. The glowing pollen drifted softly in the air, illuminating the night with a gentle, magical light. He thought about Lena's question from yesterday. How are babies made? How does life grow? How does humanity continue in a new world? He realized that the answer was not just in science or technology, but in care, curiosity, and connection. The children were showing him that growth, whether of flowers, humans, or ideas, required attention, love, and a willingness to explore the unknown. That night, Kai lay in his small quarters and stared at the twin moons rising over Elisara's hills. He thought about the children's laughter, their experiments, and their endless questions. He realized that they were not just learning, they were pioneers, and just like the first humans who had left Earth, they were discovering life in ways no one had imagined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, he knew. The patterns in the pollen might change. New questions would arise. And perhaps even other colonies might notice the unusual growth. But for now, Kai allowed himself a quiet moment of hope. The colony was alive. The children were learning. And Elisara itself seemed to hum with potential. Humanity had landed on a new world. And for the first time, Kai understood that life here was not just about survival. It was about connection, wonder, and the limitless possibilities of curiosity. He whispered quietly to the night sky, "Keep growing. Keep exploring. And always, always, stay curious." The glowing pollen drifted gently in the moonlight, and Kai knew that this was only the beginning. The morning sun barely peeked over the distant hills of Elisara when Kai noticed a small group of adults gathered near the colony's communication tower. Their faces were tense, and the hum of conversation sounded urgent. Curious. Kai walked over, the children trailing behind him, their faces full of curiosity and excitement. "What's happening?" Lena asked, tugging at his sleeve. Kai bent down and whispered, "I'm not sure yet, but we're about to find out." Dr. Leora, the colony's lead scientist, turned toward him, her face serious. "Kai, we have a situation. A nearby colony has detected unusual energy signals coming from your children's experiments with the plants." Kai felt his stomach tighten. "Signals? From the pollen?" Dr. Leora nodded. "Yes. Their DNA interactions with the alien flora are producing patterns and energy readings that no one has seen before. The other colony is worried about possible mutations or dangerous changes. They want us to stop the experiments immediately." The children, overhearing bits of the conversation, looked at each other with worried eyes. Lena frowned. "Stop? But we're helping the flowers grow. And they like us." Kai crouched to meet her gaze. "I know, Lena. I know. But some people are afraid of what they don't understand. We have to show them that nothing is dangerous." "Dangerous?" Jaren's voice trembled. "We're not doing anything wrong." "No," Kai said firmly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're doing something wonderful. But not everyone will see it that way at first. That's why we need to explain. Carefully." The council of the colony met later that day. Kai and Dr. Leora stood before a group of concerned adults, while the children watched from a safe distance. The council members asked many questions. What exactly were the children doing? Could the glowing pollen harm humans or the environment? What would happen if the other colony intervened? Kai explained as clearly and simply as he could. The children are not just touching the plants. They are interacting with them in ways that show empathy, curiosity, and care. The glowing pollen reacts to emotions, not danger. The patterns you see are a natural response to their attention. One council member, a stern woman named Mara, shook her head. It is still a risk. We cannot allow uncontrolled interactions that could have unknown consequences. The other colony has the right to be concerned. Kai took a deep breath. Yes, I understand their concern. But this is not dangerous. These children are teaching us something about life that we could never learn from instruments or computers. Please, trust me on this, Dr. Leora added. We've observed no harmful effects. In fact, the interaction is encouraging growth, health, and harmony in the plants. The children's presence and care are the only reasons these changes are occurring. The council remained silent for a moment, weighing the information. Finally, Mara spoke. We will allow the experiments to continue, but only under supervision. Kai, you and Dr. Leora must ensure safety and report any unusual changes immediately. Kai nodded. Agreed. Thank you. That afternoon, he gathered the children in the garden. Listen, everyone, he began. Some people are worried because they don't understand what you are doing. That doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong. But we have to be careful and show them that this is safe and good. Lena tilted her head. Safe and good? Like kissing flowers? Kai laughed softly. Exactly. You're helping life grow. That's always good. But we also have to respect others' fears and show them the truth in a careful way. The children nodded, determined. They resumed their experiments, this time guided by Kai's instructions. Each touch, each movement, was gentle and deliberate. The glowing pollen responded, forming swirls and trails that sparkled like tiny stars. As the day passed, Kai noticed that the patterns in the pollen were becoming even more complex. Some of the orbs floated together, forming shapes that resembled letters or symbols. It was as if the plants were communicating back, responding not just to touch, but to thought and feeling. Look, Lena exclaimed. The flowers are talking to us. Quote, Kai's eyes widened. Maybe they are. Or maybe they are showing us a new way life can work, one that we've never seen before. Word spread quickly, and soon, a small group of adults from the nearby colony arrived to observe. They watched cautiously as the children interacted with the glowing pollen, taking notes and recording data. Their expressions were mixed, some skeptical, some fascinated. One scientist, a tall man named Reth, approached Kai. I don't understand, he said. How can children cause such changes in the plants? The DNA patterns shouldn't allow this. It's impossible. Kai smiled. It seems impossible because you're looking only at the rules. Life doesn't always follow rules. These children are showing us that care, curiosity, and attention can influence the world in ways science cannot yet explain. Reth frowned but did not argue further. He observed silently as Lena and her friends moved gently among the plants, their hands brushing the glowing pollen in delicate motions. The pollen formed luminous trails that danced around them, responding to their emotions. Suddenly, the air shimmered. The patterns in the pollen combined, forming a large, glowing circle above the garden. It pulsed with light, almost like a heartbeat. The adults gasped, and the children stared in awe. Kai felt a thrill run through him. This is incredible. The children are creating something new, something alive in a way we can see and feel. This is the result of empathy and curiosity, not force or technology. Mara, standing nearby, spoke quietly. I see it now. It's beautiful, but we must still be careful. Others may not understand. Kai nodded. I know, but sometimes showing the beauty is the best way to teach. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the garden, Kai called the children together. Tomorrow, he said, we will continue. But we must remember something important. What we are doing is special, but it also comes with responsibility. We are not just experimenting, we are learning how to live in harmony with this world. Lena nodded, her eyes shining. We can do it, Mr. Kai. We just have to be gentle and kind. Kai smiled. Exactly. And remember, curiosity is powerful, but care is even more important. That night, Kai lay in his quarters, thinking about the day's events. The glowing patterns, the children's experiments, and the cautious observers from the other colony filled his mind. He realized that humanity on Elisara was not just about survival. It was about growth, connection, and discovery. But he also knew challenges were coming. The other colony's fears could grow, and not everyone would understand the magic happening in the garden. He would have to protect the children, guide them, and show the universe that human curiosity, love, and care could create something extraordinary. Outside, the glowing pollen drifted through the night air, forming tiny, shimmering trails. Kai whispered to himself, "We are not alone in learning. Life itself is teaching us, if we just watch and care." And as the twin moons rose over Elisara's hills, Kai knew one thing for certain. The children were not just learning about life. They were shaping it. The second tented, and humanity's future on this alien world was brighter than anyone had imagined. The morning sun rose over Elisara like a promise, painting the hills with soft orange and gold. The twin moons were fading from the sky, leaving only the bright glow of the flowers and pollen in the gardens to remind the humans of last night's magical display. Kai walked through the learning garden, his heart full of hope and caution. Today was important. The neighboring colony's scientists were arriving again, not just to observe, but to test whether the children's experiments were safe. The children ran ahead, laughing, carrying baskets filled with tiny glowing pollen orbs. Lena paused, looking up at Kai. "Do you think they will understand, Mr. Kai?" Kai smiled. "I hope so. We have to show them with patience and kindness. If they see what you've done, I think they'll understand." When the visiting scientists arrived, they were cautious. Their expressions were serious, their eyes scanning every corner of the garden. One of them, Reth, stepped forward. "Kai, we need clear proof. Show us exactly what your children are doing and how it affects the plants and the environment." Kai nodded. "Of course. Watch closely." The children moved carefully among the starflowers, their hands brushing the glowing pollen in gentle motions. Lena led the way, demonstrating the slow, deliberate movements they had practiced for weeks. The pollen rose into the air, forming swirling patterns of light. Some orbs floated together to form glowing circles, others created shapes that resembled leaves or stars. The scientists watched silently, their pens and instruments ready. For a moment, there was only the sound of the wind, the quiet hum of the glowing pollen, and the laughter of children. Kai explained as he guided the children. "The children are not harming the plants. They are interacting with them using care and curiosity. The pollen responds to positive attention, not force or chemicals. Look at how it moves when they are gentle and kind." Reth frowned, studying the glowing orbs. "It seems improbable, but the data supports it. The plants are thriving. The pollen is forming patterns that indicate life responses, not random growth." Another scientist, a woman named Solara, stepped closer. "And there are no harmful side effects?" Kai shook his head. "None. In fact, the interaction is strengthening the plants. They are healthier, more vibrant, and they're even spreading faster across the garden. The children are helping life grow, not damaging it." The scientists whispered among themselves. Slowly, their expressions changed. Skepticism gave way to wonder, and finally, to amazement. Lena floated her hand through a cluster of glowing orbs, making them rise and spin. "See? she said. They're happy when we're careful and kind. Kai nodded. Life responds to attention, to curiosity, to care. That's the lesson here. The children are showing us a new way to live on this planet. A way we can grow with it, instead of against it. The lead council member from the neighboring colony, Mara, stepped forward. Her face was serious, but her eyes were softening. This is incredible. I have never seen anything like it. You were right to trust the children, Kai. This is proof that growth is not just about survival. It is about connection, care, and understanding. Kai smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Thank you, Mara. And thank you for seeing it. The children giggled and clapped, proud of their work. Lena looked at Kai and whispered, "We did it, Mr. Kai. They understand." Kai knelt beside her. Yes, you did. You showed them the magic of curiosity and care, and you taught all of us something very important. Over the next few hours, the scientists and council members asked the children questions. Not about reproduction or biology in the adult sense, but about how they approached learning, exploration, and interaction with the environment. The children answered simply, honestly, and with wonder. Their words impressed even the most skeptical adults. The flowers respond to kindness, Lena explained. And if we are careful, they share their glow with us. We are all connected, and everything grows better when we help each other. The adults nodded thoughtfully. Kai realized that this was more than an experiment. It was a lesson in life. Humanity, even on a new planet, needed care, curiosity, and collaboration to thrive. By evening, the visiting scientists and council members had left, returning to their own colony with data, observations, and a new respect for the Elisara colony. Kai walked among the children, feeling a deep sense of pride. You all did something amazing today, he said softly. You showed the universe and yourselves that life grows best with love, attention, and curiosity. Lena smiled. It wasn't just us. The flowers helped too. Kai chuckled. Yes, the flowers helped too. But you led the way. Kai. As the children ran off to play among the glowing plants, Kai stayed behind, watching the gentle swirl of the pollen. The patterns they created drifted into the sky, forming shapes that resembled hearts, stars, and glowing hands. He realized that in a strange way, the children had created a language of life, one that could be understood by anyone willing to look closely and care. Night fell, and the colony settled under the soft light of the twin moons. Kai sat outside, reflecting on the past days. Lena's simple question about babies had sparked a journey far greater than he had imagined. From a playful answer to a revolutionary discovery, humanity on Elisara had begun to understand its own potential. He whispered to the night sky, "Life is not just about surviving. It's about growing, connecting, and learning from everything around us. And these children, they are showing us how." The glowing pollen drifted gently in the air, forming a soft, sparkling curtain over the garden. The children's laughter echoed in the night, full of wonder and joy. Kai smiled, feeling hopeful for the future. In the coming months, the Elisara colony continued their experiments, always with care and curiosity. The plants thrived, the children grew stronger in knowledge and empathy, and the colony became a model of human potential on a new world. News of their discoveries spread, inspiring other colonies to embrace curiosity, collaboration, and respect for life. Kai often thought back to Lena's question, now seeing it in a new light. "How are babies made?" she had asked. His playful answer had sparked more than a laugh. It had opened a path to discovery, wonder, and understanding. He realized that the true lesson was not about reproduction or biology alone. It was about connection, empathy, and the magic of care. Humanity on Elisara was learning that life itself could teach, If only one paid attention and approached it with curiosity and kindness. And as the twin moons rose over the hills once again, Kai knew that this was only the beginning. The children had shown that even small acts of wonder could create change, that curiosity could spark discovery, and that love and care could shape life itself. Elisera glowed softly in the night, alive with possibility, and humanity had begun its most important journey, not just to survive among the stars, but to thrive, learn, and grow in harmony with the universe. Kai stood quietly, watching the glowing pollen swirl like stars in the night. He whispered softly, more to himself than anyone else, "This is only the beginning. The future belongs to those who dare to care, to wonder, and to explore." And on Elisara, under the glowing sky, life moved forward, curious, bright, and full of hope.